teach whole foods production. That's one of the main courses I teach at Bastyr, and it's a core course. It's required for all of the nutrition majors. And hi, come on in.
Hi.
And each week in whole foods production, we explore a different, type of food, like whole grains or fruits and vegetables or soy foods or fish. And we talk about how that food starts in nature and how it ends up in the grocery store. And then we have a lab portion where we actually cook food that we're talking about too. And so this sugar or the sweeteners topic is one of the topics in this course. And I always begin this particular lecture by saying, my name is Cynthia and I am a sugar addict. And then you say, hello, Cynthia.
Hello, Cynthia.
There we go. Yay. And I am, definitely am. When I was little, when I was a baby, I wasn't breastfed. I was given, and apparently whatever formula they gave me didn't work out, and they started giving me some strange soy milk. This is like in the 50s, mixed with K-Rose syrup. So I got to be a junkie right from the start. And I was one of the most picky eaters that I've ever met in my life. I just wouldn't eat anything. Instead, I would sneak around. I would steal candy from the neighbors and put it in my pockets. And if my mother had gum in her purse, I'd take that. And every nickel and dime I ever got of allowance, I spent on candy. So I'm hardcore, yeah, hardcore as a kid. Sort of figured out it wasn't helping me out so much as I got older, but yeah. So it's kind of interesting. I love to put stuff about history in my PowerPoints at school because I think we forget about looking at that longer view and the bigger picture of food, especially nowadays where we're just media driven. Whatever they say today, oh no, I have to not eat that, So sugar actually started as well, this is fun, but nobody knew too much about it. I'm sorry, I need to drink a minute. This will be good for camera, Adam. I think this is my 8th lecture this week, so. Anyway, so how we first started to get a hold of it was the Crusaders were visiting the Holy Lands, right? Crusaders, what were they doing? What?
Trying to get control of Jerusalem and kill the Muslims.
How were they doing that? Killing people.
By fighting?
Yeah. They were killing people,
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
basically, yeah. They were especially killing people that didn't believe in Christianity, right? Nice, right.
Yeah.
Anyway, while they were down there, I know, Crusader sounds like such a good term, Yeah, okay. Anyway, while they were down in the Holy Lands, they found out that these folks had figured out how to grow sugar cane and press the juice out of it and let it dehydrate and turn into these kind of rock things called gur, G-U-R. And that was how we first sort of started getting the idea of sugar from sugar cane. And they brought it up to Europe, and at first the Europeans were like, wow, this is a remedy, right? What do you think it was a remedy for?
Everything.
No.
Colic.
No.
Aphrodisiac.
No, it's not really a very good aphrodisiac. Otherwise I would have, I would be some kind of prostitute on Aurora or something. But
Sleepiness.
No, there's a general problem. Anybody any depression?
Oh, yeah.
Depression. Yeah. Yeah. And so it was mostly used as a remedy for depression, and it was also used in homeopathy, right, to disguise the taste of bad tasting medicine. And it was very expensive. It cost roughly a year's salary, which was about $25 then. And so it was kept under lock and key too. Very, very precious item. Now just right away you can tell that this is not just a food. Or is it a food at all, right? Because, you know, do we keep beans under lock and key? No. What do we keep under lock and key?
Drugs.
Drugs, yeah. I mean, what else? What in the food world? Apples? No. So this teaches us something that was going on. And the Europeans got such a taste for it, such a taste for this, that they, such a Jones for it, that they began sending out ships to find undefended lands, not uninhabited, undefended, to grow the sugar cane. And that's part of what, you know, the Nina Pinta Santa Maria was about, was sending them out to find, and they were in Cuba. And they found places where sugar cane grew on islands. And then they found, well, they just found out it was just kind of a bummer to grow and harvest sugar cane. It was hot, it was sweaty, you know, it was just bad work. So, I know, let's go to Africa and get some slaves and bring them over to do the work. And then we'll get the sugar and take it back to Europe, and then we'll go back and get some slaves. And it was called the Sugar Triangle. And 2/3 of all slaves from Africa were used for sugar. We sort of think it was about cotton. No, cotton folks were much later, and they got their ideas from the sugar trade that was going on. So that tells us something. And by the 17th century, quite a while ago, this seemed large. People were eating 4 pounds per person per year of sugar. That seemed like a lot then. And then prior to 1900s, and I'm going to kind of confuse you a little bit because my statistics go back and forth from pounds to grams, and that's not too fair, but we'll get there. And then prior to 1900, we were eating in this country about 15 grams of fructose a day. But mostly through fruits and vegetables. So wait a minute, is she talking about sugar or is she talking about fructose? So sugar is 2 molecules, and one's glucose and one's fructose, and the fructose part is sweet. And fructose is in fruit, but it's just in very small amounts in fruit. And it's in fruit juice where it's a little bigger amounts. And then it's in sugar where it's bigger. The sweeter it is, the more fructose there is. So that's the way to remember that. And you can see we went from 24 grams a day around World War II to 37 to 55, and now it's estimated that we eat 72 grams a day of sugar. And what that looks like is this: 140 pounds per person per year. Our sugar consumption is making up almost 1/5 of our total daily calories at this point. This is combined sugars. This is white table sugar, this is high fructose corn syrup that's in things, this is honey maple syrup, this is orange juice, it's fructose. Okay. Any questions or anybody mad yet? Are you mad yet? No? Yeah? She's mad. It's a lot.
I am bad yet.
It's a lot. And it's causing some problems. So I'm going to just go through this really quickly about how refined sugar is made, because it's not so much that I want you to memorize or know this, but what's interesting about this, oh, I love how that D got spun off there. 2 of them. I have to make them bigger. When we start talking about some of the alternative sugars, some of them are pulled out a little earlier and don't go all the way to the end. And so that's why I have this slide here. But I do, you know, it's important to understand that most food, what we consider to be food, spoils, right? Real food spoils, and not so real food doesn't spoil. And sugar really doesn't spoil. It's a chemical. Yeah.
Well, what about honey?
Honey
So
does
sugar.
spoil, yeah,
I
but
thought
but it has other properties to it. It hasn't been refined to the
I
extent
thought
that
it
this
didn't
has.
spoil.
Well, it crystallizes.
It crystallizes, but you
Yeah.
can uncrystallize it. Like
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but it's sugar.
yeah, it's sugar.
Yeah.
It's sugar. And we are, a lot of our, I think it's 80, okay, wait, back here. Two more back, one more, you can do it. So of those 140 pounds, and there's different statistics. I've read 130 and I've read 155, so I decided to go with the middle one, just so you know, because you'll hear different ones in different places. No matter how you look at it, if it's 130 or 155, it's a lot. But I believe 85 of those pounds right now are coming from high fructose corn syrup. So let's go back for a second here and do another little history lesson. Okay, so we in this country, we do this really crazy thing. What we do is we demonize a major food group every decade. And I don't know why we do this, but we do. So I was alive and kicking in the 1970s, and what we were bashing in the 1970s was carbohydrates, believe it or not. Yes, I was on the Atkins diet. I had these little books, Count Your Carbohydrates. They were evil. Then in the 80s, we decided that protein was bad, and we had the rise of all the vegetarian cookbooks out there, and meat and eggs were going to give you heart disease, and you were just going to die if you ate those, and your arteries were going to clog up. And then in the 90s, we decided fat was bad. And somewhere yes, and we had all those products on the market that taste like cardboard because they didn't have any fat in them, because that's what carries flavor is fat. And actually, because of some government rulings that came out in the late 70s and into the 80s, we actually there was a mandate, lower our fat consumption. We're getting heart disease from fat. It's a problem. And so we did. We went from fat calories being 40% of our diet to fat calories being 30% of our diet by the 1990s. And what happened during that decade? That was the start of the obesity, diabetes, metabolic syndrome. Our health just went in the toilet, basically. And part of it was correlated with this, too. So in this country, we subsidize certain crops. We subsidize the government. We do. You know, you pay, your tax dollar goes to it, too. And the crops that we subsidize, for the most part, as much as I can tell, are not things that really need our help. But far be it from me. Anyway, we still subsidize sugar. Don't know why. But we've subsidized corn for a long time. And in fact, I don't know if you've ever seen the film King Corn. It's quite a wonderful little documentary. But we overproduce corn. We pay farmers to make as much as they can with tax dollars. And the corn basically doesn't have any value anymore. So they had to find something to do with all this excess corn that was being made. And I'm not talking about sweet corn. I'm talking about, dent corn. And it's not naturally sweet at all. So what they did with all that excess corn, and are still doing with that excess corn, is they did two things. They started feeding animals corn, the ground up corn, particularly cattle, which they're not made to do. They're made to eat grass. And at one point in time, we were letting cows eat grass, and then they would just go into holding for a short amount of time, and they might get some grains there. But now they're barely on grass at all, and they just get corn, and they actually get ill from that. I know. See, I'm just like the bearer of bad news today. It's awful. But the other thing that we did with all that excess corn was make high fructose corn syrup. And it happened really quickly that we switched from using sugar and things to using high fructose corn syrup. And oh, there it is, 83. Yeah, nice, yay. And the food manufacturers loved it because it was cheaper and sweeter and lasted longer. I don't know how it lasted longer, but they had to use less of it so they could make something just as sweet as they did, but they could save money. And this is exactly what it means. It's high fructose. What they did was they took a grain, the starch out of a grain that wasn't sweet, and they just kept steeping it and adding different enzymes to it over and over until they chemically turned some of the glucose molecules into fructose molecules, and they keep combining it until they have 55% fructose. That makes it really sweet, and that's what we have. And it's in everything. It's in everything. And it's a problem. I'm going to go back here for 1 second. And the reason it's a problem is that our bodies are actually not set up to eat that much fructose. Our bodies are set up to deal with, like, fruit. But, for example, this is pretty clear. You can't sit down and eat 10 oranges in a sitting. But that's how much fructose would be in your soda pop. Okay, so why is that bad? What does your body do with that fructose that it takes in if there's too much? And there's kind of two routes it can take. One is you're behind. It just puts on fat because it can't use it. It can't turn it into muscle energy. It's not used for that. There's a limit to how much the liver can tolerate of the fructose, and you can get something out of it. So it's going to turn it into fat, or it's going to turn it into free fat that goes through the bloodstream, making LDLs. Oops. Or it also, for some people, causes digestive problems when they're trying to eliminate it. And some feel that a lot of our IBS symptoms are related to the amount of high fructose corn syrup that we're taking in, because you can't really use it. And unfortunately, in this culture, we eat a lot of food that's unuseful to us. If you look at, even a loaf of bread, and there's 8 lines of ingredients, most of those are not very usable by the human body. I don't know why we keep eating stuff that we can't use. But there's real questions for me about, okay, I can't use it, but is it causing harm? And that one, it's going to take a long time to find out that, because who's going to pay for that study? I don't know. Mm-hmm. So when we eat sugar, some things happen, and I'm going to use sugar as a synonym for fructose here, just because sugar just sounds a little friendlier. So some things happen. The sugar quickly dissolves in the bloodstream. I mean, there's not much digestion that goes on. So our bodies have this nice but precarious balance of glucose and insulin. Okay, here we are. Oh, it's happy, it's in balance. And when we have a Snickers bar and chase it with a Coke, our glucose levels are going to pop up pretty high. Okay, if I ate an apple, it might go like that. But if I do what I just said, boom. Now, you definitely have a rush of dopamine here, and you are feeling good. But the body knows it's out of balance, and it's like, wait a minute, something's wrong here. So it will work very hard to produce insulin to match. Okay, so if you're a toddler and you just had your Cocoa Krispies with chocolate milk on them, and then you ran around on your trike 50 times in a row or something, and you used up a bunch of energy, your glucose levels are going to drop in a big hurry, and you're left with this kind of insulin high. And here, this is what we call sugar blues. This is the cranky child. This is when you're whiny. This is when you can't make a decision anymore. It's when kids kind of fall apart on the floor. And unfortunately, to do this, to make this extra insulin, is costly. It costs vitamins and minerals in particular, the B vitamins and calcium and zinc and chromium. Okay. Think bones. Okay, so here we go. We had our Coke and our Snickers. We felt good. We felt great. We ran around for, you can usually get about 20 minutes of a high out of it. And the body was working so hard to make the insulin. You used it up. Here you are. You're feeling crummy. And what are you going to do? Are you going to say, oh, gee, that felt bad. I know. I'm just going to have an apple. No. The quickest way to feel better is to have another Coke. And so if you do that all day long, which most people in this country do, think of the cost of nutrients. I mean, you're really operating at a debt, because not only does the sugar not have any nutrients, but you're taking them to make the insulin to try to make the balance. And also, certain foods tend to cause, and I don't mean acid like lemon, but certain foods tend to cause kind of an acidic environment in the body, and certain foods cause an alkalizing environment in the body. And again, unfortunately, we tend to eat mostly foods that cause an acidic environment, which are meat and sugar and coffee, things like that. Meat and sugar and coffee. McDonald's, right? And the alkalizing things are like fruits, vegetables, salt, and sea vegetables, things like that. So when we have too acidic of an environment, if I had an Egg McMuffin for breakfast with my coffee, and then I crashed out at about 11 o'clock and I had some faux granola bar with a bunch of sugar in it, then I've created this kind of acidic environment. And the body doesn't like that either. It likes a balance of acid and alkaline. And what it will do to re-establish itself is pull minerals to alkalize the system. And where do you think the minerals are going to come from? What?
Bones.
Which bones? Which are the most expendable bones that you have? What?
Big one.
The ones in your extremities?
No?
The structural ones, the big ones, the strong ones.
No?
Teeth.
Yes?
Oh.
Teeth.
Yeah.
Teeth. That's right. So it's not that when you eat candy there's sugar on your teeth and that makes a cavity. That's really weird and doesn't make any sense at all. But when you've taxed the whole system to where it needs to pull minerals from somewhere to alkalize itself, that will do it. Yeah. Your teeth. They're expendable. Or, yeah, can be. And what else happens when we eat sugar? Well, last April, there was a 60-minute episode on CBS News. So the two reasons I choose the alternative sweeteners are flavor and because there's less processing involved, but not necessarily because they're healthier, which is a bummer for some people to hear that. But there's also some environmental reasons. I mean, I don't know if any of you have ever gone to Hawaii, but I was on a long time ago. I was there, and I was on this boat, and there was we were doing snorkeling and stuff like that, and they were having us notice, and this was that no one knew that I taught about sugar at Bastyr. They were talking about how the big sea turtles had all these tumors on them, and the tumors were because of runoff of chemicals from the sugar plantations, right? So, there's environmental issues to consider as well when you're picking out what sweetener you want to use. Environmental issues, flavor, that's important, and is it a fairly simple food to make, or is it very complicated and not something I could make in my kitchen? So the way I divide up talking about the sweeteners is I look at the dry ones and the wet ones, because if you're cooking, that's how you use them. You either use it dry, either the recipe is calling for something dry or it's calling for something wet. And these are some of the sweeteners that we sometimes use in Whole Foods production. date sugar is really cool because it's just dehydrated dates that are ground up, and it sounds like, oh, whoa, that's easy. It's a whole food. I'm using that. But it doesn't behave very well. You can't cream it with sugar. You can't stir it in your tea or anything like that. You could kind of sprinkle it on your oatmeal, but it doesn't really break down. You're going to be crunching it. But it's a good idea. Then there's unrefined cane sugars, and there are many different brands of that. And you can be fooled by the labels. So I'm going to go back to that slide a long time ago where I was looking at how sugar's made. And most of the dehydrated cane juices, or what they call unrefined sugars, which is kind of doesn't really work for me in the language there. They do extract the juice. It is clarified. It is centrifuged one time, and then crystallized. So it doesn't go through quite as much stuff. Now the way you can tell if it really is an unrefined cane sugar or not is by taste. You're not going to learn from the label, and you should be able to taste the molasses in the sugar. So that's that. If it says, you know, whole raw sugar and it's just white, not so much. Maybe it wasn't bleached, and that's good, but you know. And these are now Florida Crystals is pretty white. I mean, it's kind of beige-ish. It doesn't have as much of the molasses in it as some of these others, but they do a nice job in ecology-wise. And what they do is they burn the stalks to create the fuel to make the plant run rather than buy fossil fuels. So we give them brownie points for that. And also there are cases where you don't want a molassesy sugar. Like say I'm making a, you know, like a little cucumber relish or something, and it needs just a spot of sugar or a salad dressing or something, and I don't want it to turn brown. I don't want it to have that molasses thing in there too. Then I would probably choose this, which is basically kind of just an unbleached sugar, but small amounts. And coconut palm sugar is kind of new, but there's some ecological problems with that one. Because they're using they're kind of destroying the coconut trees and taking the buds off to get the juice to make the sugar, and then they waste all the coconut. So, and stevia, which is unfortunately had such a sad and checkered history in the United States. Stevia is really the herb of that was originally grown in Paraguay, about 2 feet high. You can buy it at the nursery and grow it in your yard if you want to. And originally what they did was they steeped the leaves and then concentrated that steeped liquid like a tea, and made kind of a syrup out of it. And then there's also some way that they powder the leaves and take the green color out, and you have something stevia. But in this country, we would not acknowledge that it was a food at all for many, many years. You had to buy it as a supplement. It was pretty expensive. It has almost no calories. It has kind of a strange taste to me, but if you're diabetic, it could work. Because it doesn't disrupt the glucose or insulin at all. And they have used it successfully in Japan for many, many years. But in this country, what happened was, and I think there's another slide about this later, was the Coca-Cola company combined with Cargill got a patent on stevia, and they call it Truvia. And it's not just Rebiana, which is the sweet part of the stevia leaf. It's 3 other ingredients that are questionable that are combined to make that sweetener. And we have no long-term studies on that at all. Then these are even more commonly used, the first 2. We use honey and maple syrup quite a bit in Whole Foods production. It just depends on what kind of flavor you want. They're easy to understand how they're made. Honey comes from the nectar of flowers. Yeah.
I just had a quick question about the stevia.
Yeah.
So if you're getting stevia in the States, is that the only version you can purchase?
You can find the real thing. It's just harder to find. Yeah. It's not becoming another packet in the little tray.
Do you know any markers for how you know which one you're getting, really, or?
Well, they have to call it Truvia if it's Truvia.
Okay.
But they're fooling us now. They're making a lot of soft drinks, and it will say sweetened with stevia. But if you look, it's really Truvia. Very strange. Yeah. The malt syrups are not very sweet, but they do something really interesting that there's a slide about, and that is that they harden when they cool. So, like we made, I call them Zoom Zoom bars. There's a kind of a bar in here. And yesterday in class we made macaroons. And in both cases, you want it to hold together, And honey's kind of soft and it doesn't harden up when it dries. But rice syrup works really well, and so does barley malt. And using pureed bananas or dates can be a wonderful way to sweeten things. And then you get the fiber, and it's the whole food, and that's kind of cool. I'm not a fan at all of agave. Agave was marketed brilliantly. I will hand them that. But they make one believe that it's just the liquid that comes out of the big cactus plant, and that's not the case at all. Again, they've used some kind of enzyme in there to transfer some of the non-sweet chemical parts of it into fructose. And so you have something that's almost 70 to 75% fructose. Whereas high fructose corn syrup is just 55% fructose. So I don't see the blessing there yet. They did a great marketing job. Brilliant marketing job. And concentrated fruit sweetener isn't out there so much anymore. I used to see it more where they took, but it makes sense. They took the juice of very sweet fruits like peaches and plums, peaches and pineapple, stuff like that, and then took the juice and just boiled it down to a syrup. But I haven't seen that out there as much anymore. So I'm not going to go over this, but this comes from Feeding the Whole Family. There's a section in the back of Feeding the Whole Family called Have It Your Way, and it's all the substitutions you could ever want to know about. How to substitute whole grain flour for white flour, how to substitute gluten-free flour for wheat flour, how to substitute when you can't have eggs, all that kind of stuff. So this is how to substitute if you have grandma's sugar cookies there and they use just white sugar, and for whatever reason you would like to make them with honey, So this shows you how to make that transfer. It's just a wet to dry thing. And the thing to know about what I just mentioned is the malt syrups. They can create that hard or crunchy texture. And honey and maple syrup do add a lot of moistness and softness. So, for example, is it in here? Yeah, maybe. Anyway, it's nice to make something like cornbread, which tends to dry out, with something like honey or maple syrup, because it keeps it a little softer longer, a little moister longer. So these are other sweeteners we eat. I think that was what she was asking me about. And these are pretty scary, I have to say, these other sweeteners that we eat. And I think there's a slide about this, but we're now eating 14 pounds per person per year of artificial sweeteners. Now, of course, that pales to 140, but still, that's a lot of chemicals. And I'm not going to go over each one of these, but I'm going to go over some of the ones that are more popular. Like Splenda. Oh, do I have something on? I don't have anything on aspartame. So I just want to mention that, did anyone hear the thing on the news yesterday about aspartame? Which is also known as NutraSweet. Okay, so in 2000 and 9, I think. Maybe it was 8, but it was not that long ago. Okay, wait, I'm going to back up a second. NutraSweet had a really hard time being passed by the FDA. Oh boy, they didn't want to pass it because all the studies that they did showed that it was causing tumors in rats, and they couldn't get a clean study out of it. And it was when Carter was in office, back then. And so Carter said, no, we're not, well, that administration, not him personally, said we're gonna keep doing studies until we pass this, and they started getting together a third party that didn't have any interest in it to give feedback. And about that time, we kicked him out of office and we put Reagan in office, and Reagan was really good buddies with Donald Rumsfeld, and he happened to own huge stock in this company that was making NutraSweet, and all of a sudden, I don't know how, but it got passed. And NutraSweet made it through. All of a sudden, nobody was doing any studies on it anymore. There it is, and it's out there in the public, and basically, we're doing a self-study on that. We're doing a human long-term study on NutraSweet. And there, about 3 or 4 years ago, the Italians did a really good study. Now, part of the problem was that these chemical sweeteners, and I'm going to call them that, I don't call them artificial sweeteners, they're chemical sweeteners. The Italians did a study that was very long-term, because one of the cancers that takes the longest to grow is brain cancer, and that was the one that was showing up with NutraSweet. And the Italians did a study that was long enough, and granted it was with rats, so we don't really know. But it did definitely show not brain cancer, but lymphoma. That's what it was showing, and leukemia. And apparently just recently, like Harvard was doing seeing if they could match that study with humans. And they were about to come out with a big headline about it, about aspartame and how it causes cancer. And it was pulled because, well, who knows why, really. So we didn't get that headline. And of course, the Italian study was never made it to the newspapers here. Splenda is a compound that was formulated by some British scientists that were looking for a new pesticide. And they'll tell you there's nothing wrong with it, it's natural, but believe you me, this is nothing that you could ever in your wildest dreams make in your kitchen. It's a chemical study. And we're just barely starting to try to figure out what it actually does if you eat a lot of it. No long-term studies. No long-term studies on any of these. That's why what happens is we create these artificial sweeteners, and then they disappear off the market, and then a new one's in that we're convinced is okay, and then all of a sudden it disappears and a new one comes in, and this keeps happening and happening and happening. And the reason they disappear is because the studies pretty soon become too overwhelming, and you're like, ugh, okay, well let's just push that away. And you're going to see this happen with Splenda. It's going to start to go away pretty soon, and Truvia is going to be the next one, I guarantee you. Anyway, so no long-term studies, some short-term studies that don't look so good. And this study kind of really concerned me. It seems not that weird, but Splenda was shown to decrease the beneficial bacterial intestinal bacteria that we have. Now that is a problem, because our guts are in bad shape as it is. We take too many antibiotics, we are too clean, and we don't have a healthy gut population. And in my mind, that's causing all a lot of the food sensitivities and allergies and low-level illnesses, and we just don't have a healthy gut anymore. So the last thing in the world we want to do is drink soda that's also going to kill off that nice bacteria in there, which apparently this one does. And there's still a lot of debate out, and I also just heard another news story about this, about whether the artificial sweeteners cause cravings for more carbohydrates. So I'll read one that says yes, it does, and I'll read one that says no, it doesn't, and then I'll read one that says yes, it does, and then I'll hear one that says no, it doesn't. So I'm pretty confused, and what I don't know, and I haven't taken the time to do, is to go and find out who funded each of those studies. That would be interesting to know. This one, again, out of Harvard, said it does, but hard to know. We do know for sure, though, that drinking diet soda, people that drink diet soda don't lose weight. So, I'm not sure why they drink it.
It's sweet and it's not sugar.
It's sweet and there's no calories, right?
It's not sugar, so it doesn't have the.
No, it's chemicals that
Yeah.
make you think you're eating sugar, yeah.
They want sugar because some people don't want it to raise up.
Yeah, some people don't want it to raise up. But that's not, this is a different problem. This is filling your body with chemicals. I heard Dr. Lustig quoted recently, and somebody asked him, I think it was that news story, somebody asked him, well, should people quit drinking soda and drink diet soda instead? And he said, well, I guess that's kind of like methadone.
Yeah.
That, you know, it's a stepping stone. If that's how you need to get off the sugar, I suppose that's one way. But he couldn't condone it. And, you know, so I just threw up here, these are the ingredients that are in 2 different diet soft drinks. And, okay, what is that? Well, I've looked up all of these things, not recently, so I do know some of them. Caramel color sounds so benign, but look it up. I'll just tell you, look it up. It's not. And phosphoric acid is so strong that it has to be stored in rubber-lined gaskets because it'll eat away metal. And the gaskets can only be used one time. So, throwing that in the soft tissue of a body, I don't know. I'm just not thinking that's a great idea. And you can put teeth in a Coke or a Diet Coke, doesn't matter, and they will dissolve. And it's the phosphoric acid that does it. Yay!
Way high up.
Yes.
So with all these artificial sweeteners and ingredients in diet foods, are they more just unknown, or is there any, like with sweeteners we saw, as you know, as you have fats going down and more sugar taking its place, you have this rise in diabetes and all these other health problems. Is there any relationship like that with the rise in diet foods or diet artificial sweeteners that we have?
I haven't seen that. It's going to show up somehow. I mean, what I've seen in my lifetime is that, you know, what was the first artificial sweetener? Saccharin, you know, or whatever it is, and they disappear all of a sudden, and you find out later that there were these studies that showed that they caused cancer, and then there'll be another one that comes along. No, this one's great. And then you'll see that there's these studies that cause cancer, and then it disappears and a new one comes.
So they almost don't last long enough to see that.
That's
kind of
right,
trend
yeah. So we're
you
just
see with
keep
sugar.
doing these kind of studies on ourselves in a way. But it's very underground. Me personally, I'm not interested in being a subject for the study.
No.
Okay. But I love it. I get it. I look at that. I want that too. Believe me. So I'm going to give you some strategies, because that's a good thing, about how some things you can do to kind of tame the beast a little bit. Now, I was talking to somebody on the phone. I was doing a little interview, and she was very interested in this topic, and and I mentioned to her something I don't have in any slide here, and that is that everyone is individual about this. So there are people that you know, of course, that can have a glass of wine and it's not a problem. And there are other people that if they have a glass of wine, they have to finish the bottle, right? So I feel sugar's similar in that way. It acts a lot like, very similar. So some of us can have a little piece and it's not a big deal, and others, it sets off this craving. So we made macaroons in class yesterday, and they were good, you know, and I had to taste a couple stations macaroons. And last night I was sitting there and I was watching something, and I was thinking, oh, maybe I'll make those chocolate lava cakes tomorrow. And I started laughing at my own self, because I realized, oh, I got triggered, didn't I? And I did, because I hadn't been thinking about making chocolate lava cakes. But once it's there, it starts living there, and you have to be really, really conscious of it. So the next section is called Curb Your Enthusiasm. So Dr. Lustig recommends this amount, which is low. I mean, there's like 162 calories of sugar in a can of soda. So that's low. Women can't even have the can. So that's his recommendation for sugar consumption. And actually, I try to live by that, and I can do it as long as I don't slip off the wagon and eat too many macaroons.
So that's added sugar, right? Not including fruit.
Not including whole fruit, but including fruit juice. Yes. That's low. Eat a better breakfast. And why would I say this?
Metabolism.
What? Yeah. What about it?
Gets it going. Gets your body digested.
Well, yeah. If you don't eat breakfast, or you just eat refined carbohydrates for breakfast, you're going to start doing makeup all day long. So by 10 o'clock, you're going to think you need something else, and you're going to find it. And the easiest thing to find is going to be something with some sugar in it. And then you're going to get your little junky thing going, and you're going to want some more, and you're going to want some more, and you're going to want some more, so you feel better all day. So having that really good breakfast, so you actually have nice, sustained energy to start the day with, I cannot possibly tell you how important that is. And I'm talking about a breakfast that has carbohydrates, protein, fat, and fiber, all 4 things right there, not just one. This is my favorite breakfast. My daughter took that picture. It's bibimbap, or my version, I call it bebop breakfast. It's on Cookus Interruptus, and it's in this book. Yeah, I put bebop breakfast in here, and it's brown rice that's sautéed in some butter. Yeah, and then I take that out and put it in a bowl, and then I sauté some kale or whatever greens I have in butter, and I put some vinegar and maybe a little tamari on that, and then I fry an egg, put that in, and then I put some homemade kimchi, and it's pretty darn good. It's a fabulous breakfast. And boy, when I have bebop breakfast, I'm bebopping all day. It's good. I had it this morning. I'm good. And I'm not feeling hungry, or, you know, like I have to have something. Schedule snacks and make them whole fruit. Just go, okay, I get it. I have a problem. I'm a sugar junkie. I want something sweet right now. I want something sweet right now. And when I'm having a bad time or a bad period or something, that's what I do. I go, okay, every day at 3 o'clock, I'm going to cut up an apple and have it with some peanut butter on it. That's what I'm going to do. Or every day at whatever, around 3 o'clock is my time. It doesn't need to be yours. Or 11 o'clock, that's it for somebody. I'm going to sit down, I'm going to have a pear and some toasted almonds or something like that. Just make it whole fruit. I'm going to carry a banana in my purse. It's there. I know when I start getting the cravings, I'm going to have my whole fruit. Another thing that can, another rule that I encourage people to have is to make your own desserts. So if your rule is, yes, I can have desserts, but only if I make it myself. Well, if you're living my schedule, that happens once a month, maybe. Right, it does. And but when you do make your own desserts, you can make sure that they have protein, fiber, and fat involved in them too. So you know, I use whole grain flours a lot, not whole wheat flour, that's heavy duty, but whole wheat pastry flour. These particular cookies also have teff flour in them, which is kind of cool. It makes them kind of stretchy. And, you know, and it's got different sweeteners in it, including molasses, which has some other nutrients involved, and butter. The fat's good. So, and be sure you get enough exercise and sleep. Seems so obvious, but this is what happens if you didn't get enough rest and you aren't moving enough so that your metabolism is nice and fired up. What happens is you get kind of sloggy and tired, and you don't have the energy to make a good decision, and then you're going to grab for the donut. Well, you know, I haven't had one in so long, or whatever. You know, we have these crazy tapes that go in our head that justify all sorts of behavior every day. We also, you know, the word dessert is very close to the word deserve. And it's one of the issues that we have around sugar and sweet things is as we see them as celebration. We see them as, oh, I've been so good, or she's been so good, or it's a wonderful, we need to celebrate her, or whatever. And that, in this culture, is equated with something big and sugary. You know, a wedding isn't a wedding without this big sugary wedding cake. And I'm not saying, oh, we should go to weddings and have bananas. No, that would be terrible. And we should, and you know, if somebody's having a birthday cake, yeah, you have a piece of their birthday cake. You celebrate with them. But then you just have to be conscious. Oh, I had a piece of birthday cake. And for some people, that's no big deal. The next day, they won't want sugar. But for other people like myself, I'll start thinking about sugar, you know, within the next 10 hours, I'll want something else again. And I have to kind of go, okay, okay. And then I'll just make sure I feed myself really well and kind of get over it. But so I had one other little video I wanted to show you. This is just a happy thing, right? This is a recipe that we make in class a lot, and it's for date pecan bonbons, and it's made with whole dates and pecans. So you've got fiber, you've got sweet, you've got protein, you've got fat. The students love them. It has just a itty bit of maple syrup in them. And this is one of our Cookus Interruptus videos. So.
Joaquin has a t-ball game today, and I thought I would make them a little snack for after the game. And since I couldn't talk Mom into doing it, here I am. Now, I'll know what it means when I'm cooking something. It means if I can do it, you can do it. In fact, maybe some of you might want to cook along with me in case mine comes out rank, and then you can write me and tell me what I did. That's not going to happen. Confidence Jane, confidence Jane, confidence Jane. Okay, what I've got here is I've got 3/4 cup pecans, which I toasted on a cookie sheet for 10 minutes. That was easy, I didn't screw that up. So far so good. 1/2 cup pitted dates chopped, 1 teaspoon of orange zest, a pinch of sea salt, and there's nothing I like better than a teeny tiny spoon. I have 1 teaspoon of white miso, 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon, and 1 tablespoon of maple syrup. The shredded coconut we're going to leave for later because we're going to roll the balls in there after they've blended. So I'm going to put everything in the food processor. Okay. Favorite part. Okay, good. Now, I'm ready to pulse. Are you ready to pulse? Here we go. Oh. I can't.
Wait,
How is it?
It's plugged in. I looked at that. Yeah.
Something's not right.
Yeah, I know. You got to do that, and then you got to do that. And
Oh, you
then
can't
do
look
that.
at the. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, okay. Go and act like I didn't. Act like I could do that by myself. Okay. Ready? There we go. Pulse until you have an even mealy mixture. That French works good. Oh, no. Oh, okay. See, my self-confidence almost got the better of me there. All right. Now, this part I can do. Put all ingredients, okay, I did that already. Evenly mixture, moist hands. Okay. I hope you guys are doing this with me. I feel like you are. I feel like we're all together in this. Okay. Something in these? Maybe not for the teeny tots. So you roll it into about a 1-inch ball, and then you're going to roll it in the coconut. It's an actual well put together food stuff that I made. Look at it. There you go. There's one.
Joaquin's been waiting in the car for about 20 minutes.
Oh no.
Yeah,
I
he's
totally,
gear and everything.
I totally lost track of time.
These look great.
Can you keep them occupied?
I'll do that.
Give me 5 minutes. How many people on his team?
There are about 6, I think.
Okay, they get 1 each.
Okay.
Because they're going to be that good. They'll say, I only had 1, but it was good. It's time to go, isn't it? You know what? So good. Are they? So good. No, okay. Here.
Wait, you gotta unplug it. That's hilarious.
Yay, Jane. Yay, Jane. Okay, so I have a few minutes for questions, and I'm happy to answer your questions if I can. I hope I can, or not, or that's where we are. These are my little brags, my books, and there's the stuff about our show, and I have cards up here about the show, and then that. So, any questions? Yeah.
What was the flour you said, and that whole wheat flour?
Whole wheat pastry
Whole wheat
flour.
pastry.
Yeah, whole wheat flour makes bricks out of cookies.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
I was confused about the xylitol because I thought that there's a xylitol from birch trees that's
Mhm.
just derived directly from the birch sap.
Yeah.
Is that so? That's some bad chemical.
It's a sugar alcohol. I haven't read bad things about it, but I haven't read good things about it either, and it's never really caught on, and so I'm not sure why.
Okay. Well, I think they
It's
recommend
certainly-
you don't have a lot of it because a lot of people don't.
Well, the question
have
is
some reactions
why?
to it.
Why use it? That's the question.
Well, it doesn't have. It would be for diabetics. It doesn't give you that sugar rush.
And don't they kind of say that it's natural too?
Well,
They imply that
there's a kind that isn't, that comes from corn.
I would,
Corn, but
I
then
would
that's
probably,
manufactured.
if you were dealing with diabetics, I would try to, well, first of all, you shouldn't be trying to make a whole bunch of stuff that tastes sweet anyway, really.
Right.
But if beyond that, you might try to find some clean stevia. And, yeah.
Well, no, with xylitol, I've talked to some people who have used it and they can get intestinal problems like diarrhea
Yeah.
after a certain amount.
Mhm.
Yeah,
They have problems.
I think for
The
some
thing,
people it's
the
not
thing
so
that
good.
we keep doing in this culture is we don't want to deal with the fact that we eat too many sweets. We want somebody to come up with a way that we can eat sweets and there's nothing that's going to happen. And we're not there. We either have these artificial sweeteners that just frankly are Frankenstein chemical things, and then we've got all these fructose problems that are products that if you have too much, it causes problems. toxins? Yeah.
Can you go back to talking about how to find a clean stevia? I mean, when you go to Whole Foods and you buy a little bottle with a dropper, how do you know it's not the Truvia?
Well, they have to say Truvia. You look at the ingredients.
Okay.
If it's just, I believe it's Rebiana. Let me look here for a second, because I have it written down in my notes. Oh, you. Okay, let me see.
Yes.
Okay, so Truvia has 3 ingredients. It has erythritol, Rebiana, and natural flavors, whatever that is. And that's what you don't want. You know, real stevia only has the Rebiana, or we'll just say stevia leaves. Yeah.
What is known about erythritol?
What's known about that? Not too much. Do I remember? Yes. Hang on, I put it in my notes here. So, this is interesting. Okay, so Rebiana is made from the stevia leaf by soaking in water, and the Cargill Corporation says, oh, we make Truvia, it's just like making tea. Although it's a 40-step process that includes acetone, methanol, ethanol, and other chemicals to make it.
Erythritol.
No, that's the Rebiana, how they process the Rebiana. You know, I've forgotten actually, but I have read a study about the erythritol that's not great, but I can't remember what the side effect was right now. Why have it?
So how would you range if, like me, I have to take artificial, being diabetic? How would you range the sugar substitutes? Speaking of less hard.
Well, the only one that I could say that as far as I know, the long-term studies don't show any harm, is a true stevia.
Stevia, and also I took low hand. They have it. It's a Chinese, but I don't know anything. It's very sweet, no aftertaste. Stevia, some days some aftertaste in stevia, but low hand doesn't have. It's a Chinese plant. And it's a fruit, monk fruit it's called. But I don't know, does it have any side effects or not?
Well, have you eaten it?
Yes, I used it.
And do you have any problems from it?
You know, so far not, but...
Yeah. You know, I don't know, I would have to look it up, you know, and see if there have been any studies about it, and I haven't done that, so I can't speak to it with any authority.
It's sold by Swanson Health Products.
Well, that scares me. I don't know.
Do you know what herb it's from? What herb is it?
It's from the monk fruit, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I would just go online and read and read and read and read and read and read until you get some kind of balanced idea of what, you know, try to throw out the ones that are trying to scare you, and try to throw out the ones that are telling you it's totally okay, and find the middle point of view about it. Yeah.
Okay, this is a slightly random question, but why does non-fat milk have more sugar than other milks?
Because it doesn't have any flavor.
So it's
just water. It's white water. I call it white water.
Right. But why is it like, you know, one more sugar, you know? If anything, it'd be the same.
Do they add sugar to it
Because
to
it's
cover
on the
up
nutrition
fat?
facts, it's like says there's like 13 grams of sugar versus 11 or something. with
Because
2%
the
of
protein and the fat have been
It's
taken out. So what's
And
left?
the
Well, not the protein, but the fat's been taken out.
But why would that
So it's-
increase the sugar?
So you're getting rid of
Because
the-
you took out something. So
Oh!
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just a percentage.
Yeah.
Okay, got
Yeah.
it.
Always
And then,
percentage.
got it. And then, what is the fructose content in table sugar? Is there-
Oh, I think it's like 50,
Okay.
maybe 52 or something like that. But it's close to what high fructose corn syrup is.
Okay. And then with the stevia plant, stevia plant,
Either one, they're both.
Okay.
It's called both things.
Okay. You said that you could get it from like a dispensary or something, like the plant itself, right?
This one will
At
be-
a nursery.
I mean.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
At a nursery,
Yeah.
and but would you be able to make
Did you
the
feel
sugar
like
at your
that?
house?
No.
Okay.
Well,
you need some. sort of
You could do this. You could get enough leaves. You'd need a lot, and you could steep it. Dry the leaves, steep it like you would a tea, then boil the tea down till it's a syrup.
Okay.
You could do that.
Yeah.
It's possible.
But people use it normally as a tea in other.
They use it as a sweetener. It's in little packets now.
Okay. But I meant like not in the country. But where did you say it was? Stevia plant? In Japan?
It originally grew in Paraguay.
Oh, Paraguay. Okay.
Yeah, that was where its origins are.
And they
but-
use it as a tea, right? They didn't use it as a like sugar in packets, right?
I don't know what they were using it for in Paraguay.
Oh, okay.
I don't have any idea. Yeah, and the Japanese turned it into a powder to use to sweeten things for a non-calorie sweetener. Yeah. Yeah. I think again, what we have to really address is why we think we need so much sweet.
I know.
Yeah,
I just am trying to find answers.
Yeah, why that's what we really need to address. It's not can we find some miracle sweetener so I can eat cookies all day long and have no problem. It's not going to happen. Well, maybe, but not in my lifetime. Any other questions?
I would just say that it's way easier to not eat sugar at all than to eat a little bit of sugar.
For you?
Yeah.
First, I mean, my husband doesn't have a problem with it, so he can have some and then it doesn't matter.
For sugar addicts.
That's right. That's right. Any other questions? See, now you know how to make date pecan bonbons. If Jane can do it, anyone can do it. So yeah, if you want a postcard about our show, you're welcome to come and take one. And the dispensary has the books, and I'll just hang here and turn my slides off if you have any questions you want to ask me. I don't do private counseling at all. I'm not a clinician, but the clinic here has our nutrition department provides them with we have excellent counseling available here in nutrition, and my colleagues run that program, and I have the best, smartest faculty in the world. I know that for sure. Good, thank you for coming.